Hello captains and welcome to yet another X-Plane 11 video showing the Flight Factor Airbus A320 Ultimate. Many of you guys may have watched and maybe even commented on the previous videos. I've got quite a few comments saying something like, "Can you please drop the music next time?" or something like that. I usually don't have much time to do full flight videos. I have two small daughters, a wife and no real office, so it's quite hard to get a quiet moment to do these 1 hour plus videos, but this aircraft is something special, so I thought, why not make an exception and show you a full flight from cold and dark at its current stage of development. It's a plan to show some of its neat features and things that can be manipulated in the cockpit while we're on the way, and also talk a little about the status of the aircraft. So, if you're interested in the more technical aspects of this aircraft, and I'm sure many of you are, well, then I hope you're going to find this video interesting. Anyways, like in the previous videos, please be aware that this video is based on a product that's a work in progress. Therefore, as you are probably aware of, things are continuously being updated, changed and optimized, so the end product may end up looking and working slightly different than what I'm going to show you in this video. Since the only livery I have at the moment is from Lufthansa, I thought it could be interesting for you to follow me on a route that Lufthansa flies with the Airbus A320 in real life. Hamburg International Airport, Echo Delta Delta Hotel to Frankfurt International Airport, Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot. At the same time, these two airports are the same that I used in the departure and approach videos, so this video will kind of link these two videos together. We're going to take off from runway 33 and fly the EDDH-4G standard instrument departure out of Hamburg, follow November 850 to Pirot, then Tango 152 to Robar and Tango 152 to Karax, where we are going to use the Kara 1G standard arrival into, if everything goes as planned, runway 25 center at Frankfurt International Airport. Now enough talking, let's get this aircraft up and running. We're currently situated at ramp 65 at Hamburg International Airport, and it's the idea that we're going to fly the route to Frankfurt, where we're going to make a full automated ILS landing. On today's flight we're a little less than half full and our passengers have already boarded the aircraft. I'm going to show you a neat way to get the aircraft loaded with fuel at a later stage, but for now let's get some ground power connected. Let's check that the voltage on both batteries is over 25 volts. Turn on batteries. Turn on external power. Turn on nav lights, so our first officer making the walk-around inspection today can see that the bulbs are working. Switch IRS to nav. And now let's fill out the first init page on the MCDU. Before proceeding to the init page, we are just going to check the data page for aircraft model, engine configuration and navigation data date. Now on to the init page. We are flying from Echo Delta Delta Hotel to Echo Delta Delta Foxtrot, align IRS. Our flight number is Delta Lima Hotel 0023. Our alternate is Echo Tango Alpha Romeo. Today's cost index is 21. Our cruise flight level is 330. Let's also enter the winds. Now, before proceeding with the MCDU programming, we're going to prepare the cockpit. Oxygen crew supply isn't modeled yet, but should be on. Landing gear lever should be down. ECAM brightness as required. Let's check our service consumables on the ECAM. First, our oil quantity on the engine page, which should be over 17 quarts. Our hydraulics quantity shown with the arrow on the hydraulics page, which is here in the normal filling range. And the oxygen pressure on the doors page, which should be over 850 psi. Next, we are checking the flaps and slats lever is set to 0 and that the indication on the ECAM is the same as the lever indication. The ground spoilers lever is retracted and disarmed. Engine master switches are in the off position. Engine mode selector is in the normal position. Parking brake is set. And the brake and accumulator pressure is normal. For the accu pressure to be normal, then you would see the indicator in the green area here. So actually our accu pressure is low. Don't panic if your accu pressure is low. There are different ways to get it up. One way is to set the PTU to off. Yellow electric pump on and off, and PTU on again. Another way is simply to fiddle around with the cargo doors that are also part of the yellow hydraulic system, just as the parking brake. Next, circuit breakers. We'll assume they are alright, as well as the emergency equipment, protective breathing equipment, etc. Since IRS are still in the alignment phase, let's do some other things before continuing to program the MCDU. Let's for example enter our barometric reference, which I'm going to get from Xenviro. QNH is 1022.
Approaching 2-3.
Well, now IRS are aligned, but let's just first set our barometric reference on the standby attitude indicator.
Approaching 3-3. On runway 3-3.
Now it's time to program our route in the MCDU. Our departure will be from runway 33. We're going to be using the IDDH-4G standard instrument departure. From IDDH we are going via November 850 to Pirot and via Tango 152 to Robar and via Tango 152 to Kirax Let's program our arrival, and if the wind doesn't allow landing on the planned runway when we get to Frankfurt, then we'll just change it while we're on the way. We're planning an ILS arrival into 25 center using the Kara 1G star. Now let's go through our flight plan and delete any flight plan discos. Normally you would go through every waypoint and check that the constraints are equal to the charge, but let's assume it went well for this flight. Let's also check our route on the navigational display to verify that it looks as expected. Let's just fill out the second init page before we check the route, because obviously our weights will affect our top of climb and so on. On the second init page we could spend time on finding these weights and input them manually, but we are simply going to use the built-in feature to input 0 fuel weight, takeoff weight, etc. The only thing we are going to change back is the block fuel weights. According to SimBrief, we are going to need 6.7 tons of fuel. On to RadNav. Here we have the ILS frequency for our arrival. Now let's check our flight plan. Let's just bring up the navigational display and let's go through our waypoints. Here our top of descent, our missed approach, under performance we'll put in our rotation speed and V2. Let's put in a speed of VR minus 2 knots as V1. Let's just check our center of gravity in the init page again to find our trim setting at takeoff. Center of gravity is 26.1, which gives us a trim setting of about 0.5 up. Let's input that in the performance page. We are taking off with flap 1 and our trim was 0.5 up. We are going to use a flex of 40 degrees. Our thrust acceleration and reduction speed is where the auto thrust wants us to change from flex or toga to climb speed. We're going to change that to 800 feet above field elevation, which is 850 feet. And then we're going to take note of our clean speed, or our green dot speed here, to use it during climb until we're out of class Bravo airspace, 190 knots. We don't want any speeding tickets on our way out. Now going into the prog page. Here we'll compare our planned cruise flight level with the optimum and maximum flight level. In the secondary flight plan we are going to copy the active flight plan if for some reason something goes wrong with the current flight plan. Then we can always use the copy. And we're done. Let's go back to the flight plan page on the captain's MCDU and to the fuel prediction page on the first officer MCDU. Now let's continue with the captain's and first officer's cockpit flows. We're assuming that the maintenance status of the aircraft is alright. Let's first go back to the arc mode on the navigational display. Terrain on ND and change the range. Now from the top left hand side of the overhead panel we are going to check things downwards. Terrain and ground proximity warning system on. The flight data recorder is not implemented at the current stage of development, but this would be checked at this stage. Seatbelt signs off, no smoking on, emergency exit lights armed, annunciation lights test, and checking around the cockpit. Wing and engine anti-ice off. Probe heat auto. Cabin pressure auto, and let's verify that the landing elevation on the ECAM is also auto, which is the case. APU bleed as required. Cross bleed selector auto. Pack flow selector as required. Now checking the battery charge current, done by monitoring the electrical page on the ECAM while turning off both batteries and then turning them on again and checking that the charge current returns to under 60 amperes in less than 10 seconds. Fuel pumps auto. Fuel mode selector auto. Engine fire test, checking that all bulbs are working. We hear the all fire warning sound and that the warnings are shown properly around the cockpits. APU fire test, again checking that all bulbs are working. We hear the oral warning and that the warning is shown properly around the cockpits. Going quickly over the right hand side of the overhead panel. Overhead maintenance panel checked. Observer's radio management panel set. Cargo heat in the mid-range. Cargo smoke test. Okay, let's just go quickly through the rest of the flows. Barometric reference already set. Flight director on. ILS off. The flight control unit shows dashes at speed and heading, and we'll just set our cruise flight level 33,000 feet. Sliding window is closed. Terrain on ND already turned on in both the captain's and first officer's side. Anti-skid and nose wheel steering is on. ECAM status page shows normal. Radio management panel is on. Weather radar is not implemented yet, so we are not going to worry about severe weather on our way. Let's see how that goes. The ground spoilers lever is retracted and disarmed. Gravity gear extension handle is stowed. Parking handle is set. Thrust levers are set to idle. Transponder, let's put in a random squawk code. Transponder is in standby. And check that the ECAM shows TCAS standby. On to the before start checklist. APU master on. APU start on. Let's just pop up the lower ECAM while the APU is starting. Now just waiting for the APU to come on. APU available. APU bleed on. Let's just get rid of the ECAM pop-up. External power off, and let's disconnect the GPU. Let's check our fuel quantity. Seatbelt signs on. Before start checklist complete. Before pushback, we are making sure that windows and doors are closed, beacon can come on, and transponder can be set to TARA. Now let's prepare for pushback. As you can see, I've already chosen a good spot here, so let's hit enter. And just wait for the pushback guy to come pick us up. Here he is. Notice here the engine fans swirling in the wind.
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed, ready to connect, set, parking brake.
Okay, now we're ready to push back. Let's just jump back into our cockpit. Notice here that the upper ECAM shows nose wheel steering disconnected due to the nose wheel steering bypass pin being inserted as part of the pushback. Now time to start up the engines. Thrust levers are set to idle, engine mode selector to ignition, Engine Master 2 on, and let's monitor both ECAMs. Let's have a look out at the engine starting up from the cabin. Now we can start up engine number 1. Engine Master 1 on. Notice the open start valve in the bottom of the lower ECAM. N2 increases, oil pressure increases, and the fuel flow increases. Both engines are running. Let's now just sit back and wait for the pushback to be completed.
Acceleration complete. Please set parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Okay, on to the after start checklist. Engine mode selector back to normal. Ground spoilers armed. Rudder trim 0. Pitch trim set to 0.5 up. Disconnect pushback. APU bleed off. APU master off. Now we're just waiting for the pushback guy to move his truck and to send us a hand signal in the cockpit.
5% has been removed. Hand signal on the right. I'll see you next time and have a safe flight.
Pushback truck moving. And there's the hand signal. Taxi lights can come on. Parking brake off. Brake test. Here it's important that the brake pressure remains at 0. Let's set the parking brake here and check our flight controls. ECAM to the flight control page and let's pop it up. Full rudder left. Full rudder right. Aileron left. Aileron right. Pitch up and pitch down. Let's make sure that the PFD brightness and both the inner and outer navigational display brightness knobs are set as required. Auto brakes max. Flap set for takeoff, and takeoff config shows normal takeoff configuration on the upper ECAM. Oh, let's just wait for the flaps to be fully extended for takeoff and try again. And now we have normal takeoff on the ECAM. ECAM status is normal. The flight control unit is set. We are ready to get going, so before entering the runway, let's light up the Christmas tree. Parking brake off. As you can see on the PFD, climb and nav modes are properly armed.
Approaching 3-3. On runway 33.
Let's set the parking brake. Chrono on. Pitch forward 50% and set thrust to 50% N1, and monitor the engine page on the ECAM for normal engine operation. And we're good to go. Release parking brake. Thrust levers to flex. V1, rotate, positive rate of climb, gear up, flaps retracted,
Too low, terrain.
autopilot on, now we are told on the PFD to put the thrust lever in the climb detent. Done. As you can see, we are now flying at the green dot speed that we entered in the MCDU. Let's just have a wing view from the cabin while we are leaving Hamburg. Nice view. Now that we are above 3000 feet and out of Bravo airspace, we can continue on managed speeds. Lights can come off. Going through a thick cloud layer now. Let's get constraints on the navigational display. Spoilers disarmed. Going through the transition level, altimeter to standard, also the standby altimeter. Seatbelt signs can come off. Let's have a look out from the cabin. Not much to see from the left, not much to see from the right either. Okay folks, I thought that when we're above 10,000 feet, then I could show you a couple of neat things in the cockpit. So until then, we are just sitting back and enjoying the ride. Now a little more to see for our passengers. And much better from the right. Breaking through the cloud layer. Flying through 10,000 feet, we can now retract our landing lights. Okay, now that we're on our way and the autopilot is taking care of the rest, I thought that I would show you some of the things in the cockpit that can be manipulated. As already shown in one of the previous videos, we have the kneeboard here. Let's just have a look out while turning here. Nice view. Okay, back in the cockpit, let's have a look down. here the armrests can be manipulated. Let's have a look up again. The window can be opened and closed. Now is probably not the best time to do it, but you can see it in action in one of the previous videos. If we have a look up at the overhead panel, then we have the sun shields in both sides that can be taken down. And up again. We have the standby compass that's hidden up here. And up again. Most of the screens can pop up. The PFD and the ND. Standby attitude indicator, upper and lower ECAMs, also the first officer screens can pop up, the clock/watch. Let's look up, where also the overhead panel can pop up. And back again. Down here, both the captain's MCDU can be popped up as well as the first officer's MCDU. Radio management panels. By the way, all pop-up windows can be moved around and resized as you wish. From here, you can get the ECAM switch panel and the throttle quadrant. Up here we have the FS and the flight control unit. Let's increase the range of the map. The reason we have the pink color here is because the map on the ND comes from the region loaded into X-Plane. This is already a known issue. Now let's have a look at the electronic flight bag. We have our checklists. Let's just see if we've remembered everything in the after takeoff checklist. Cockpit preparation flows. As already shown in a previous video, we have a neat Google map in the EFB. Go check it out in the first video I made. Here we have the after takeoff checklist. Spoiler disarm, engine mode selector as required, taxi lights off, engine and wing anti-ice as required, pack 1 and 2 on. I think we are there. Now another neat feature that's been implemented since the cockpit overview video is the built-in browser feature. That way you can check any web page on the internet, which is very useful. You can for example check the Flight Factor Airbus 320 forums for news while you're en route. While we're at it, let's just take a look at one of the latest posts from Azert, one of the developers behind this beauty. On page 83. In this post, some of the currently missing features and known bugs to expect in the upcoming limited public beta was listed. Icing related things and effects, some problems with APU, its model is subject to complete replacement, control logics works as expected. Unexpected behavior of conditioning system in some cases. Some aural warnings including stall, speed, wind shear and pitch. Some flight warning computer warnings, about 5% still not implemented. Flight warning computer warnings, override logics, failures, linkage with SIM and any interface, behavior of the systems during faults, minor systems, cockpit voice recorder, evacuation lights and logics, oxygen masks, cargo heat and smoke, etc. Flight management and guidance system is missing some alternate route and airport functions, fix info, offset, a beam points, step altitudes, pilot holds. The weather radar is missing, full enhanced ground proximity warning system map. At the moment only the region loaded into the SIM is shown on the ND. And some self-test logics. As mentioned in the post, all other systems not mentioned here and its functions should work perfectly, and the current focus of the development is on the base logics and normal operation scenarios, with failures coming at a later stage during beta period. If you're interested, then there is a more detailed description of the before mentioned missing features in a post a little further down on the same page. Anyways, an important note, if you're interested in buying in on the limited beta, as mentioned countless times, this product will initially be sold as work in progress. So there will be bugs, there will be missing features. The bugs will be ironed out during the beta phase. As you can see, the aircraft already works really well under normal operation, and it's the intention to slowly enhance the number of features to include the before mentioned systems and failure modeling also during the beta phase. Also mentioned in a previous video and on the forums, this product was initially designed as a real training tool for pilots. To simulate this aircraft as close to the real thing as even possible, the software running inside each module is a duplicate of the real thing, unlike any other models, also including Flight Factor's other Pro models, which only approximates the system as a whole. For example, when a switch is pressed, it doesn't simulate the action of, for example, a valve, but rather simulates the electrical impulse sent to the valve, which reacts accordingly. As you can understand, it's the ambition to create the most complex airliner ever for home computer flight simulation. Anyways, if you're interested in keeping up to date with the development of the project, then the dedicated forums is a good place. Now, there's a lot of pages to read, a lot of drama and a lot of speculation going on there, but it's also here the official announcements are being made. Sticking with official announcements, then the latest official announcement made was that the limited public beta will most likely be available during this week. How this version will be limited? The official statement mentions an initial 500 copies, with another 500 copies in a second wave at a later stage. Did I remember to mention that the limited public beta will be sold as work in progress? Well, at least now I did. Again, the forums will be your friend. It's here the announcement will be made when the product is available. So, go ahead and check in. Other features already implemented into the aircraft by default is the excellent XRAS or runway awareness and advisory system that you may already know. It's a very useful feature, letting you know if you forgot to set the altimeter, letting you know when you're approaching a runway and that kind of stuff. Really useful. As you saw, the excellent Better Pushback plugin also works flawlessly with this aircraft. Okay folks, I'll rest my voice and your ears until we're ready for our approach, which I'll release in part 2 of this video.